Like 30 years ago, I was the manager of market research here at O.C. Tanner, and the factory was having some real problems. The efficiencies were going down, the costs were going up, the quality was a problem, and the company was seeing that we needed to make some changes. We needed to improve things, and they posted for a job, facilitator of change. I thought that sounded fun. It wasn't as much fun as I thought it was going to be. But I applied for the job, I got it, I went into manufacturing. The first thing I noticed was I didn't know anybody on the factory side of the business. All my contacts were in sales and marketing and client success, but I started talking to people and I realized, man, there's some good people over here. And very quickly I started telling my friends back in marketing and sales that, hey, I think these manufacturing people are the company's best kept secret. You know, we don't talk about them, but there's some power over here. Great conversations with them individually, especially as we're just talking about life and family and things like that. The funny thing was when I went to talk to team members about the work, they wouldn't talk to me. They didn't want to talk to me. They were afraid to talk to me. And the reason was we had a very top-down controlling, autocratic culture where the manager was the one who controlled everything. And I think the biggest, most important thing that we changed was we turned that upside down so that the people closest to the work were the ones who started to make improvements to the work, and the manager became more of a coach and a teacher and a mentor. I want to just say something about what I think helped allow that to happen, which I think everyone should consider and think about in their own lives. Very early on, we were having a difficult time getting team members to own quality, to own output, to own safety even. When you would ask them who owned it, they would point to the manager and say, that's the manager's job. Now, you walk on the floor and you ask any team member, who owns safety in your team? And they say, we do. Who owns output in your team? They say, we do. Trying to make that happen, trying to get that switch to happen, we instituted a new system which basically became our coaching system. And what it basically amounted to was every manager had to sit down with every person in their department for 5 to 7 minutes every week. No one wanted to do that. No one thought they had time to do that, but we made it mandatory. And what we were trying to focus on was team output, team quality, team safety, and team cost. But what we found was more profound than that. One-on-one conversation, a manager talking to a team member for 5 to 7 minutes, all of a sudden personalities are starting to come through. All of a sudden I, as a manager, I'm starting to see you as a real person. I learned something about your family, about your parents, about your kids, about your pets, whatever it is. It's small, it's not a big deal, but over the course of doing this every single week, I'm starting to see you as a real person. And up until now, I think as a manager, I've been treating you as an object, somebody who I needed to control or manipulate or make do the things that I wanted them to do in order to hit my rates, in order to hit my output, my quality, my costs, and so forth. And I also think it happened the other way as well. I, as a team member, I'd been afraid of the manager. The manager would bark at me and tell me things to do, and now all of a sudden I'm having a conversation one-on-one and he or she actually isn't that bad. They're actually kind of human as well, and I kind of like talking to them. It's not a problem. And over the course of several months of these one-on-one conversations, it felt to me like this sphere that was covering the entire factory and holding it rigidly in place with a lot of fear, frankly, just started to melt away. And I think the most important thing that anyone needs to think about doing is getting people connected to each other. We now say that the number one role of a manager is to connect their people to each other, connect the people to them as a leader, and connect the people to the company and the purpose of the company, why we do what we do. I think if the manager does that, it pays off huge dividends. As our people began to, one of the things that came out of the managers talking to these team members is I'm starting to see, hey, you're actually pretty smart. Hey, you actually know a lot about this process. And maybe instead of barking an order at you, just a few months down the road, I'm going to ask you what you think. I'm going to ask you for your opinion. Maybe I no longer even feel like barking at you. I feel more like talking with you and partnering with you and collaborating with you. So for me, I found that one-on-one connections with people became an incredible tool for leadership, a powerful way to make things happen. Now, on a personal standpoint, I can tell you that I wanted to be one-on-one as well with every team member, with every leader, with every manager, with every director. And so I made it a personal priority to talk with people, to make time to visit with them. And here's what happens. As you start to have these conversations, we actually ended up evolving our coaching into not just a 5 or 7 minute interaction, but a 30-minute conversation every other week. You get a longer period of time sitting down at just one-on-one with somebody. Your conversation's going to go a long ways. And at first, a lot of our managers were saying, "Look, I don't have time to do this. I've got a job to do, and this isn't my job." We now have them believing, no, your number one job is connecting with people, teaching people, building people, developing people. Something interesting happened shortly into this journey. As our managers were spending half an hour with every person every 2 weeks, a lot of the issues that used to happen in the department, to which the manager was reacting to and was trying to clean up and trying to fix and trying to solve, they went away. And I fully believe, and I think our managers came to believe, the ones who were engaged in it the best, that the better proactively they were one-on-one with team members, the easier their job became. They were able to solve those problems before they even occurred. So similarly, if I want to have influence, sure, I've got influence because I have title. I have a nice title in my name, so people owe me deference or respect or whatever. But if I want real influence with people, they have to know them as a human being, and they have to see me as a real person. So I've made it a priority early on to learn people's names, to talk with them, to understand them, to be comfortable with them, to ask them their opinions. And I make it a priority every day. When I became an executive vice president, my boss who was leaving, Harold, who was a great role model for me, he said to me, when in this new role, you're not going to have the time that you had before to get to the Gemba. You're not going to be able to go to the floor and talk to people. And I remember thinking, we'll show you, I don't think you're right. Turns out he was absolutely right. I get totally absorbed in corporate strategy and talking with the executive team. And all of a sudden, I was absent from the floor. And I knew it was a problem when I would go there and team members would say, "Hey, Gary, haven't seen you in a while. You've been okay?" And I realized I needed to get back. I had to rewrite my leader standard work so that it emphasized going to the Gemba. I had to throw some other things off the sled so that I could spend more time on the floor interacting with people, talking with them. I actually find that going to the floor and visiting with factory people makes me happy. I get cheered up, I get excited, I get juiced. If I'm ever worn out, the best thing for me to do is go to the floor. So I think as a leader, that would be my first high-level advice to any person, is create connections with your people, create connections with each other, get to know them, understand them, start to care about them, and you'll be surprised at the results that come because of it.